So there have been, of course, a lot of, we've seen that there have been talks about the casualties on the Americans as well, but this is the Saudi Air Base, where even US troops are stationed, and the Iran, you can see the visual that has also been released. These are satellite images that show the damage at the air base, the Saudi Air Base, which also has US fuel tankers. So 6 ballistic missiles, 29 drones at the US base in Saudi Arabia have been fired up until now. And over 24 of US soldiers, as per reports, have been injured in total so far in the past 2 weeks. So they are bearing the brunt. We've seen different air bases across the Gulf have been attacked. Saudi Arabia, we've seen this base has been attacked. And this, of course, raises a lot of questions as to what the US is also saying about its side. Meanwhile, we have Croatia now confirming that the world's largest carrier now docked in Split. Croatia, Trump has admitted, remember, that the USS Gerald Ford was hit from 17 angles by Iran, and now Croatia claims that the USS Gerald Ford is in Croatian waters for planned maintenance. So it's Croatia now also confirming that it is working on this, and Croatia releases this statement as far as the USS Gerald is concerned, and Trump has also admitted, and it has arrived in Croatia now for maintenance, fixing for maintenance. It arrives in Split, so it's badly damaged. It's the world's largest aircraft carrier, and it has arrived in the Croatian city of Split, and it's a city of Split, and now we can see that the visual of course, it's not the latest visual, what we understand at least, but this has arrived in the Croatian city of Split as per US Embassy. We have more breaking news coming in. An informal group of ministers headed by Defense Minister Rajnath Singh is set to meet at 4 p.m. today to discuss the situation arising in West Asia, the impact of the West Asia war. So these are back-to-back meetings with regards to West Asia that we have witnessed in the past 3 to 4 days, ladies and gentlemen. Rajnath Singh once again is going to hold a meeting with some leaders, with ministers on the West Asia war. Defense Minister expected to hold this meeting in a short while from now, we understand, and we'll try and get more details. But this is slated for around 4 p.m. and Rajnath Singh will be holding this meeting with the ministers on the West Asia war. The Prime Minister also held a virtual meeting last evening with the different chief ministers. And my colleague Harsha joins us live in the broadcast. Harsha, tell us more details about the meeting that will be headed by Rajnath Singh.
Right. In fact, an informal group of ministers headed by Defense Minister Rajnath Singh will meet at 4 p.m. today to discuss the situation arising from the West Asia crisis. This has been confirmed by top sources to the Republic. This comes after Prime Minister Narendra Modi also conducted a virtual conference with chief ministers of all the states across India, discussing about the escalating crisis in the Middle East. This is another big breaking that we are fetching for our viewers, that an informal group of ministers headed by Defense Minister Rajnath Singh will meet at 4 p.m. today to discuss the rising situation in the West Asia crisis.
Absolutely. This has been a great cause of concern, Ishan. We've seen Rajnath Singh earlier also holding these meetings. We've seen the service chiefs also being part of the meetings. And now, of course, what we understand is that it is a great cause of worry for all the countries, in fact, because this war is only widening. Even the GOC-in-Chief of Northern Command today has said that our troops are ready and they're prepared for any escalation in situation.
Absolutely, because this is a crisis where not just India, but the global, all the countries across the world are impacted, and we have maintained that the government of India is maintaining that they are trying all bits, all possibilities are being explored so that the impact can be minimized. At this point, at least domestic supply of LPG cylinders are being ensured. They've said that 60 days of crude supplies are ensured. We are in a comfortable position, but the government of India is trying everything possible to minimize the disruption that is caused not just to India but across the world. So this is another breaking that we are fetching for viewers. An informal group of ministers headed by Defense Minister is set to meet at 4 p.m. today.
Right, Ashan, thanks so much for joining us with those details coming in on that story. Viewers, in the meantime, we will be continuing to get you more updates from the war zone, but right now it's time for a very, very short break. We're going to tell you how Houthis have entered this war in this escalating situation. Houthis have, in fact, hit the missile in Israel. It has been intercepted, Israel says. Get you more on that.
प्यास बुझाए ठंडक लाए सबको भाई जीरा सिम MDH का जल जीरा जीरा सिम
जीरा सिम असली रिफ्रेशिंग असली स्वाद असली मजा
MDH
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे केसरिया से मन जोगी
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी
आर प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा हार प्योर मसाला।
हमें धीरज के साथ संयम के साथ शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी
Amity has been ranked among the top universities globally for producing the most employable graduates by the Times Higher Education UK. Yet another testimony to Amity's excellent placement record.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद ये तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा क्या स्वाद है। अरे मेरे राजा
का राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
हमें धीरज के साथ संयम के साथ शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी अलग प्रकार से ही तय किए जा रहे हैं। हमें धीरज के साथ संयम के साथ शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। आदरणीय सभापति जी, जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
आलू चाट या फ्रूट चाट।
स्वाद बढ़ाए चमकी चाट।
क्या बात है। स्वादिष्ट पकोड़े और फरसान अरे चंकी चाट है इसकी जान।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चंकी चाट।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी।
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी एवरी डे।
हमें धीरज के साथ संयम के साथ शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी अलग प्रकार से ही तय किए जा रहे हैं। हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। आदरणीय सभापति जी, जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। इस युद्ध के दुष्प्रभाव लंबे समय तक रहने की प्रबल आशंका है, लेकिन मैं देशवासियों को भरोसा देता हूं, सरकार सतर्क है, तत्पर है।
आर प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो, मिलाओ और खाओ।
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है, सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है। अरे मेरे राजा,
हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी अलग प्रकार से ही तय किए जा रहे हैं। हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। आदरणीय सभापति जी, जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। इस युद्ध के दुष्प्रभाव लंबे समय तक रहने की प्रबल आशंका है, लेकिन मैं देशवासियों को भरोसा देता हूं, सरकार सतर्क है, तत्पर है और पूरी गंभीरता से रणनीति बना रही है।
From Asia's largest news headquarters, setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Republic TV. I'm Gesu Bharadwaj. And now, viewers, the war in West Asia has taken another turn. The Houthi rebels have now entered the war. They've struck Israeli territories. Israeli military assets have been struck by the Houthi rebels. They've in fact also said that Israel and US should be ready to get battered more in case the aggression against Iran does not halt. Getting you all the details, but first here's a check on your headlines for the hour. Take a look.
Every 32 seconds, another airplane, a very fast plane, was coming off the deck of an aircraft carrier. That's actually the biggest aircraft carrier in the world. And it was 1 o'clock in the morning, so we said, okay, I think we're in trouble.
US President Donald Trump makes a big admission, says world's biggest aircraft carrier, USS Gerald Ford, was hit by Iran from 17 angles.
Just another American president that was a loser, where the country was going downhill. But now he has to be nice to me. You tell him he better be nice to me. He's gotta be.
Another shocking remark from Donald Trump humiliates Saudi Crown Prince in his address and says Gulf nation leaders better obey him. The West Asia war escalates. Houthis have now entered the war with missile strikes against Israel. 5 Indians injured in UAE by debris following interception of ballistic missiles. Prime Minister Modi addresses the West Asia war, says India is resilient while other nations are reeling under the war's impact. 2 more Indian-flagged LPG carriers transit Strait of Hormuz, set to arrive in Indian waters soon.
यहां से दुनिया के लिए विमान तो उड़ेंगे ही, साथ ही एक विकसित उत्तर प्रदेश की उड़ान का भी प्रतीक बनेगा.
Prime Minister Modi inaugurates the first phase of Jewar International Airport in Noida, set to have a capacity of 12 million passengers per year. Union Home Minister Amit Shah releases a charge sheet against Mamata Banerjee's government in Kolkata, raising issues of corruption, governance failures, among other issues. Viewers, now as Tamil Nadu gears up for the assembly polls, the DMK and Congress have come out with the first list of candidates. In fact, that coalition has also announced that the DMK is going to contest about 168 seats and Congress will be contesting on 28 seats. Now, this comes as Tamil Nadu's Chief Minister and DMK's Chief M.K. Stalin held a press conference explaining that the DMK will be fighting for 168 seats in the poll-bound Tamil Nadu Assembly elections. Meanwhile, the Congress will contest on 28 seats. That's the latest that we're getting in. Now, for the Congress, this is an increase of 3 states from 25 seats that it contested for in 2021. Now, the list of constituencies where the Congress will field their candidates has also been finalized. This includes areas like Ponneri, Sri Perumbudur, Sholingur, Erode East, Nanguneri, among others, including Kodalur, Mailaduturai, etc. And now we're also being joined by Sharda to get us more details onto the matter. Sharda, just a few days back, the BJP and the AIADMK first released their numbers, and now the DMK and the Congress have done it too. The poll-bound state is really gearing up as the polls inch closer. Speak to us about the details of the matter.
Well, Tamil Nadu is just 30 days right down to the elections. 30th, the nominations are starting. After the NDA has announced the number of seats and the constituency divisions between their allies today, DMK announced the division between where DMK would be standing and where the other allies would be standing. As you mentioned, Congress is standing in 28 seats, where these 28 also include Congress strong-bound places like Sri Perumbudur, and also there are places that includes Krishnagiri, Penagaram and all that, whereas DMK is retaining its majority of leaders in the same place where they constitute. For example, M.K. Stalin is again contesting from Kolathur. Udayanidhi Stalin is contesting from his already existing constituency, which is Shepok. And there's also the former Minister Nazar from Avadi, and OPS, who recently joined the DMK from the AIADMK. The former Chief Minister under J. Jayalalitha is standing from his hometown of Bodhinayak, Kannur, and PTR, the Tyagaraja, the minister, is also standing from his fort, which is Madurai. So we can see that the DMK is is following a tactics where they're placing strong leaders there. And also, if we notice, DMK is standing in 168 seats exactly as the AI-ADMK. 164, all DMK's own candidates, plus 4 of small political infringements will be standing under the symbol of the rising sun. Same goes for the AI-ADMK. We saw 168 completely standing on own by the AI-ADMK party members, whereas 4 more, which becomes to 172, would be stood by the other allies that would be standing under the two-leaf symbol. So we can see that DMK is going head-on against the AI-ADMK, whereas the constituencies division are also separated in such a way that if we see Congress is heading on with BJP or PMK, the second strongest ally of the AI-ADMK. So we can see that the strategies that they are having for this particular election and the campaign is mostly focused on aiming at the AI-ADMK rather than the BJP and the PMK on the field. But however, MK Stalin, as we know, insists on fighting as DMK versus NDA is what the election strategy of the DMK seems to be. Now, with the announcements have been done, the Congress is yet to announce the nominees, the candidates who are standing. The important question whether Kanimuri, the MP, Lok Sabha MP, who will be saying that will be contesting in the elections this year, likely that she is not contesting. She continues to be an MP. There was multiple talks that she would like to become an MLA and not an MP anymore and would like to take a ministerial position in the state. But however, that rumor has now been completely, the speculation has been completely stopped out with the constituencies being announced for the retaining DMK leaders.
Sharda, thanks for getting us those details. We will continuously keep tracking the story with you, of course. But for now, viewers, it's time to shift focus and take a look at what's unfolding amid the ongoing West Asia escalations. Now, a massive admission from US President Donald Trump. He's admitted that the world's largest aircraft carrier, USS Gerald Ford, was hit from 17 different angles by the Iranian projectiles. Now, that's one of the biggest claims that he's made. He, in fact, a Pentagon had claimed that laundry fire put USS Gerald Ford out of action. That was the first statement that came in. And now Donald Trump has turned that statement over. He says that the carrier was struck from 17 different angles by Iran. Now, a lot of difference in the statement that Pentagon first made about USS Gerald Ford and what Trump says. Now, let's listen in to the US president and his statement about the Gerald Ford.
We knew there was a problem when we noticed at 1 o'clock in the morning, every 32 seconds, another airplane, a very fast plane, was coming off the deck of an aircraft carrier. That's actually the biggest aircraft carrier in the world. And every 32 seconds, boom, boom, boom. And it was 1 o'clock in the morning, so we said, okay, I think we're in trouble. But they were ready for us, Johnny. And we were ready. He said we were ready, and then they hit us. And they came from 17 different angles. They were here, they were there. We ran for our lives. It was over.
And this is not the only statement. Another big shocker comes in from the US President Donald Trump, where he's completely mocked the Saudi crown prince. Now, he says that every leader in the Gulf must make one thing very clear, that they need to obey Donald Trump. He's also claimed that Arab leaders must obey all his orders. And this is exactly why the world now seems to be turning against Washington. Listen in to this statement where he completely comes off over the Saudi crown prince. Viewers, now these are the visuals of Donald Trump with the Saudi Crown Prince, in fact. And as the war takes its own course, takes its own trajectory, US President has come down heavily on the Saudi Crown Prince. He said that him included with all the other Gulf leaders need to obey him. That's the statement that US President Donald Trump has given. On the other side, the war only seems to be escalating, with more and more people now joining in the war. Now, Yemeni armed forces have confirmed that they have targeted Israeli military facilities deep inside Israel, and they have made it very clear that this resolve in the war remains, that in case the aggression against Iran does not deduce, does not stop, they will continue battering Israel, US and their allies, and they have now sounded the bugle of standing right next to Iran in the war that's ongoing in West Asia. Now, this also comes after Iran-backed Houthi movement in Yemen already warned that it will not hesitate from joining the war if the aggression against Iran does not reduce. Now, Houthi rebels, proxies of the Iranian regime have entered the war, escalating the West Asia tensions by a huge margin and creating more trouble for the US and Israel joint war operations that are ongoing in West Asia.
بيان صادر عن القوات المسلحة اليمنية بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال تعالى: يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن تنصروا الله ينصركم ويثبت أقدامكم. صدق الله العظيم. تنفيذا لما ورد في بيان القوات المسلحة اليمنية السابق بشأن التدخل العسكري المباشر دعما وإسنادا للجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران ولجبهات المقاومة في لبنان والعراق وفلسطين، ونظرا لاستمرار التصعيد العسكري واستهداف البنية التحتية وارتكاب الجرائم والمجازر بحق إخواننا في لبنان وإيران والعراق وفلسطين، فإن القوات المسلحة اليمنية بعون الله تعالى وبالتوكل عليه نفذت أول عملية عسكرية، وذلك بدفعة من الصواريخ البالستية، والتي استهدفت أهدافا عسكرية حساسة للعدو الإسرائيلي جنوبي فلسطين المحتلة. وقد جاءت هذه العملية تزامنا مع العمليات البطولية التي ينفذها الإخوة المجاهدون في إيران وحزب الله في لبنان، وقد حققت العملية أهدافها بنجاح بفضل الله. عملياتنا بعون الله تعالى سوف تستمر حتى تتحقق الأهداف المعلنة وكما جاء في البيان السابق للقوات المسلحة، وحتى يتوقف العدوان على كافة جبهات المقاومة. والله حسبنا ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. عاش اليمن حرا عزيزا مستقلا، والنصر لليمن ولكل أحرار الأمة. صنعاء 9 من شوال 1447 للهجرة، الموافق 28 من مارس 2026، صادر عن القوات المسلحة اليمنية.
Now, viewers, while the US is already embroiled in a war in West Asia against Iran, the US President Donald Trump says that Cuba is next during a speech at an investment forum in Miami, during which he touted the success of US military action in Venezuela, where they picked up the country's president, Maduro. While the president did not specify what precisely he plans to do with the Cuban island nation, he has frequently said that Cuba is going to be the US's next target. Take a look at this as we also tell you that Russian and US's naval aggression is unfolding very quietly as the world is looking at West Asia. This is happening right next to the Cuban island.
You wouldn't have to use it. I built this great military. I said, you'll never have to use it. But sometimes you have to use it. And Cuba's next, by the way. But pretend I didn't say that, please. Pretend I didn't say that. Please, 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 media, please. Disregard that statement. Thank you very much. You wouldn't have to use it. I built this great military. I said, you'll never have to use it. But sometimes you have to use it. And Cuba's next, by the way. But pretend I didn't say that, please. Pretend I didn't say that. Please, 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 media, please disregard that statement. Thank you very much.
Now, viewers, what is the actual cost of this price, especially for the United States? Now, over 24 US soldiers have already been wounded in Iranian strikes on a Saudi airbase in the past week. Now, according to 2 people who have been briefed on the matter, they say that at least more than a dozen US soldiers have been injured. Iran fired 6 ballistic missiles and 29 drones at Saudi Arabia's Prince Sultan airbase in a Friday attack that wounded at least 15 of US's troops, including 5 who have now accounted for serious injuries. Now, according to sources who were not authorized to comment publicly and they still spoke on the condition of anonymity and said that US officials initially reported that at least 10 US troops were injured, including 2 that were seriously wounded. Now, this comes as Iranian strikes continue in retaliation against Israeli and US joint aggression as the war now enters its 29th day. Over 24 US soldiers injured, with some very Serious wounds also recorded for at least 5 of them in just one airbase that was struck. Now, this airbase, located about 96 kilometers away from the Saudi capital of Riyadh, the base is run by the Royal Saudi Air Force, but it's also used by US troops as a landing pad, and this was struck by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps and the Iranian military, and over 24 US soldiers were harmed. They were injured and wounded as part of this single strike. Now, initially, Washington and Pentagon maintained that the number was 10, but now the actual number is out, the number that's over 24. Now, viewers, against a backdrop of escalating international conflict and economic instability, the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, today positioned India as a resilient global outlier, asserting that the nation continues its rapid development even as other powers struggle with the fallout of the war. Now, speaking at the inauguration of the Jeevan International Airport in Noida, he made some explosive remarks, not just about India's long-standing diplomacy, but also lauded India's efforts of energy revising amid the war. Take a listen.
अभी जो युद्ध चल रहा है, इससे पैदा हुए संकट का सामना कैसे करना है, इसके बारे में मैंने संसद में भी विस्तार से बताया है। मेरी कल देश के सभी मुख्यमंत्रियों से भी लंबी चर्चा हुई है और बड़ी सकारात्मक चर्चा हुई है। मैं आज आप सभी जनता जनार्दन से फिर कहूंगा, मैं देशवासियों से फिर से कहूंगा, हमें शांत मन से, धैर्य के साथ, एकजुटता के साथ, मिलजुल करके इस संकट का सामना करना है। ये पूरे विश्व में परेशानी पैदा करने वाला संकट है। हमें अपने देश की सबसे ज्यादा चिंता करने है और यही हम भारतीयों की सबसे बड़ी ताकत है। ये जहां युद्ध चल रहा है ना, इस युद्ध से प्रभावित इलाके से मंगाता है। इसलिए सरकार हर वो कदम उठा रही है जिससे सामान्य परिवारों पर, हमारे किसान भाई बहनों पर इस संकट का बोझ न पड़े। साथियों, संकट के इस समय में भी भारत ने अपने तेज विकास को निरंतर जारी रखा है। मैं सिर्फ पश्चिमी उत्तर प्रदेश की ही बात करूं तो पिछले कुछ सप्ताह में ही ये चौथा बड़ा प्रोजेक्ट है। इन कुछ ही सप्ताह में, इस दौरान नोएडा में बहुत बड़ी सेमी कंडक्टर फैक्ट्री का शिलान्यास हुआ। इसी कालखंड में देश की पहली दिल्ली मेरठ नमो भारत ट्रेन ने गति पकड़ी। इसी कालखंड में मेरठ मेट्रो का विस्तार किया गया और इतने कम समय में आज नोएडा इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट का आप सबके हाथों से उद्घाटन भी हो गया।
Viewers, now getting in a fresh breaking development. Croatia has now confirmed that the world's largest aircraft carrier docked in Split is in Croatia for repair. Now, Trump admitted that USS Gerald Ford was hit from 17 different angles, and now Croatia has given a confirmation over the fact that USS Gerald Ford, the world's largest carrier, has in fact been hit. Now, remember, Pentagon earlier said that the carrier was off its course. The carrier was not in works in the operation because of an internal collapse. But now the US's President Donald Trump has said that USS Gerald Ford, the world's largest carrier, is in fact hit from 17 different angles by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. In fact, Croatia has also confirmed that the USS Gerald Ford is docked in Split in Croatia for repair works as the US's naval capacity now seems reduced in the West Asian waters. Now, the Croatian waters have been chosen as a landing path for the ship for proper planned maintenance. Viewers, these are the visuals of the world's largest carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, which is now docked in Croatia, in Split, and that comes because the ship was hit from 17 different angles by Iranian military. Now, getting in some more breaking development, viewers, Rajnath Singh is once again, the defense minister is holding a meeting on West Asia. The meeting has been convened and called by the defense minister just day before yesterday. In fact, viewers, defense minister Rajnath Singh held a roundtable with all tri-services chiefs and the CDS over the escalating West Asia tensions. And now, once again, defense minister Rajnath Singh has convened a meeting on the West Asia escalations. The meeting is in fact going to take place shortly at the Ministry of Defense, and the defense minister will be holding the meeting next to senior ministers too, whose names we are yet to confirm. Now, another shocking remark from Donald Trump. He humiliated Saudi Crown Prince in his address and says Gulf nation leaders better obey him. Getting you this and a lot more after this break.
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
सैंडविच लस्सी और छाछ
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट ड्राई फ्रूट और दही बड़े चमकी चाट से स्वाद बढ़े
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चंकी चाट
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे केसरिया से मन जोगी
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला डिलीशियस हेल्दी एवरीडे।
हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी अलग प्रकार से ही तय किए जा रहे हैं। हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। आदरणीय सभापति जी, जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें
आर प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है। अरे मेरे राजा,
मसाला।
हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी अलग प्रकार से ही तय किए जा रहे हैं। हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। आदरणीय सभापति जी, जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं, इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। इस युद्ध के दुष्प्रभाव लंबे समय तक रहने की प्रबल आशंका है, लेकिन मैं देशवासियों को भरोसा देता हूं, सरकार सतर्क है, तत्पर है और पूरी गंभीरता से रणनीति बना रही है, हर निर्णय ले रही है। देश की जनता का हित हमारे लिए सर्वोपरि है।
प्यास बुझाए ठंडक लाए सबको भाई जीरा से MDH का जलजीरा जीरा से।
जीरा सिर्फ असली रिफ्रेशिंग, असली स्वाद, असली मजा।
MDH
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी एवरीडे।
हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी अलग प्रकार से ही तय किए जा रहे हैं। हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। आदरणीय सभापति जी, जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं, इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। इस युद्ध के दुष्प्रभाव लंबे समय तक रहने की प्रबल आशंका है, लेकिन मैं देशवासियों को भरोसा देता हूं, सरकार सतर्क है, तत्पर है और पूरी गंभीरता से रणनीति बना रही है, हर निर्णय ले रही है। देश की जनता का हित
Namaste. How's the Josh? High, higher, highest? Highest. We need that in this country, and I thank Arnab Goswami and the Republic Network for creating this national movement so that we are able to all come together with a collective consciousness and unity and strength as Bharat or India. You know, without this intangible spirit or Josh, we can never survive in this big bad world. I'm going to be talking about this big bad world today. What is geopolitics? I want to start with this fundamental concept of geopolitics for all the young people here before we go into why nationalism is necessary in an era of heightened geopolitics. This term is usually associated with great powers or big powers wanting to control, influence, or to dominate certain key regions or spaces in the world. It comes from geography and politics, the combination of geography and politics. So there are some strategic spaces out there and they need to be under the control of some great power or the other. This is what classically geopolitics means. Which means that, there are some coveted spots and areas that need to be under somebody's control. So it's an imperial concept, geopolitics. But now, increasingly, the way we use it, it just means competition and struggle for power among, various countries. So why has geopolitics become so significant today? And why should we pay attention to it as nationalistic Indians? In the year 2014, about 12 years ago, there's a very well-known American scholar, Walter Russell Mead. So Walter Russell Mead wrote an article in the iconic Foreign Affairs magazine of the US. It's called The Return of Geopolitics. And his argument was that for a long time we thought that these rivalries and struggles and conflicts between countries for influence in different parts of the world had ended. And we are all going to live together in one big, shared universal family. हमारे संस्कृति में, हमारी सभ्यता में वसुधैव कुटुंबकम का उच्चारण बहुत बार करते हैं हम, आप सब जानते ही हैं. तो इसे अगर आप अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर आप लागू करें तो ऐसा लगता है कि हम सब बंधु हैं, मित्र हैं, एक दूसरे के सगे हैं. तो आपस में अनबन क्यों, लड़ाई क्यों, सब साथ मिलकर let us live together in peace and harmony forever, right? That's the idea. But Walter Russell Mead was saying that actually geopolitics is returning after many decades of what looked like integration of the whole world. The world is one, is not just the name of a TV channel, it's actually, a concept that many what were called liberals had promoted. We will forget nationalism, we'll forget national boundary, we'll forget there need not be any struggle. The whole world will be like integrated into one single market under the umbrella of capitalism, and we will all live happily ever after. So what Walter Russell Mead was saying in 2014, Russia had occupied Crimea and taken over Crimea at the time. Chinese were flexing muscle in the South China Sea and also in our backyard in the Indian Ocean region. And so he was saying that essentially the era of a long peace is over, and we are now back in the era of fierce geopolitics and contention among major powers. And if I were to fast forward that return of geopolitics to today, 12-13 साल गुजर गए, अब ये और भी तीव्र हो गया है. भू राजनीति और प्रतिस्पर्धा और भी तीव्र हो गया है. And in fact, it's not, I think, an exaggeration to call the current era an era of war. ये हेडलाइन सुर्खियां आजकल अंतर्राष्ट्रीय ज़्यादा क्यों होती हैं, आप साथ सोचिए. It's mostly because there is conflict and intense rivalry and endless jockeying for power and influence among major powers. So in a way, geopolitics is now the defining feature of the world. मैं as a professor of international affairs, as a host of my own TV show on Doordarshan, Indian Diplomacy, as a writer and as an author and a newspaper columnist, I've been arguing that we need to reorient ourselves in this new era of heightened geopolitical rivalries. So what is this reorientation, and इसमें nationalism का स्थान क्या है? राष्ट्रवाद क्यों आवश्यक है जब भू राजनीति बहुत तीव्र हो जाती है? ये संबंध, इन दोनों जो अवधारणा है, कॉन्सेप्ट्स, इन दोनों के बीच में जो संबंध है वो समझना बहुत आवश्यक है. राष्ट्रवाद को कुछ लोग जैसे वामपंथी हैं वो कहते हैं कि राष्ट्रवाद जो है उसके कारण बहुत सारी जो देश के अंदर जो विविधता हैं, जो असमानताएं हैं, जो इनजस्टिसेस, ऑल दीज थिंग्स, इन सबको दबा देती है राष्ट्रवाद, और इसलिए राष्ट्रवाद हानिकारक है। वामपंथियों के हिसाब से राष्ट्रवाद हानिकारक है क्योंकि इट्स अ काइंड ऑफ ऑपरेशन ऑफ people who are actually suffering from injustices internally, and therefore they highlight more of the internal divisions and the what they consider to be extremely unfair and unequal and unjust practices within society. If you bring in nationalism, it will hide these dark corners of the society. That is the argument of the left. In our history, for example, Mahatma Gandhi and Bhimrao Ambedkar ke beech mein, if you see, the central contention was about this only during the freedom struggle. Should nationalism be prioritized or should social justice be prioritized? As if the two were seen as, contradicting each other. So the left says that we should actually give up nationalism and should actually not promote it because that is a right-wing thing. It is meant to cover all the bad tendencies and practices and trends and phenomena in our society. And ये भारत की बात नहीं करो, विश्व भर में इसी तरह का ये बुद्धिजीवियों के बीच चर्चा चलता हमेशा यही है कि राष्ट्रवाद हानिकारक है करके वामपंथी बोलते हैं. बट इन दिस इरा ऑफ हाइटेंड जियोपॉलिटिक्स जिसका मैंने अभी परिप्रेक्ष्य रखा है, भू राजनीति बहुत तेज़ है, युद्ध हो रहे हैं चारों तरफ, राष्ट्रीय सुरक्षा और राष्ट्रीय सम्मान और राष्ट्रवाद एक तरह से एक कवच है अपने आप को बचाने के लिए. इट्स अ डॉग ईट डॉग वर्ल्ड आउट देयर because all the liberal values, the so-called liberal international order, which was protected by the US and by Western countries, all have collapsed right in front of our eyes. So what is your ultimate recourse for survival and to yourself be a major player in the world? It is nationalism. एक बड़े महान लेखक हैं हांस मॉर्गनथौ, अमेरिकन स्कॉलर हैं. मॉर्गनथौ wrote a famous book called Politics Among Nations. And this is one of the classics of international relations. I urge you to all look it up. हालांकि अभी काफ़ी बदलाव हो गया. This was way back 1950s and 60s. So what makes a country powerful, or what are the elements of national power? So I'll just read out for you what are the elements of national power according to Morgenthau. Geography, natural resources, industrial capacity, military preparedness, population, quality of government and diplomacy, and last but not least, and which is relevant to my talk today, national character and morale. इसलिए मैंने शुरुआत आपसे पूछा कि how is the जोश. So, and to explain what he means by national character and morale, it means the psychological condition of a nation, including social cohesion and dedication to its goals. अभी हमने कर्तव्य के बारे में सुना कि कर्तव्य कितना अहम है एक राष्ट्र के लिए. सो देयर आर सम नेशनल गोल्स एंड ऑब्जेक्टिव्स. माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने हमें 2 गंतव्य दिए हैं 2047 तक. टू बी अ डेवलप्ड कंट्री, अ फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड नेशन, और वट एवर यू वांट टू कॉल इट, अ हाई इनकम सोसाइटी, विकसित भारत. एंड द सेकेंड इज टू बी अ लीडिंग पावर इन द वर्ल्ड इन इंटरनेशनल अफेयर्स. तो इन दोनों के लिए इट्स नॉट जस्ट इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ और मिलिट्री माइट, यू ऑल्सो नीड दैट साइकोलॉजिकल प्रिपेयर्डनेस एंड मोबिलिटी ऑफ द सोसाइटी. जो अर्नब गोस्वामी और ये नेशनलिस्ट कॉन्क्लेव कर रहा है, इट इज बिल्डिंग अप टुवर्ड्स दैट ओनली. सो आई थिंक दिस इज एक्चुअली अ हिस्टोरिक कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन. इज नॉट जस्ट एन ऑर्डिनरी media show that's happening here. This is something much beyond that. So national character and nationalism are very crucial. And if you go back in history, nationalism actually was a force for good. The leftists have, like I said, tried to deconstruct nationalism. ये जो टुकड़े टुकड़े वाले ये कहते हैं कि राष्ट्रवाद गलत हैं, खराब हैं. But if you go back in time in history, the advent of modern nation states, nationalism has been the most liberating force in the world, in world history and even contemporary in this current era of geopolitics. How has it liberated? आपको याद है, what were the political formations 400-500 years ago when there were no nation states? Empire था ना, साम्राज्यवाद था हर जगह. If you see the political map of the world in say 1500 or 1600, it was all carved up along empires only. There were very few nation states or nationalism. So, nationalism was the force that actually broke the back of empire. Our own freedom struggle is the best example of that, but इस प्रकार के बहुत अनेकों जगहों पे राष्ट्रवाद उभरा और राष्ट्रवाद के आधार पर एम्पायर भी चलाया गया. जो यूरोपियन साम्राज्यवाद भी, it was on the basis of national greatness or the racial greatness of the civilizing mission of the white man and of those countries. But nationalism also ultimately became a force in the 20th century. पिछले शताब्दी की आप देखें, when most of Asia, Africa, Latin America, we all got independence in the 19th and 20th centuries. Nationalism was the most greatest liberating force against empire. आज साम्राज्यवाद के विरुद्ध हम खड़े हैं, हम अपने आप को स्वाधीन मानते हैं, उसका श्रेय राष्ट्रवाद को ही जाता है. And today, in this heightened era of geopolitics or rivalries, where जो कहते हैं ना जिसकी लाठी उसी की भैंस, आज हम उस अवस्था में आ गए हैं. There is a law of the jungle running out there. Nobody is following any rules or ethics, right? Might is right. अगर आप में शक्ति है और आप प्रतिद्वंदी में नहीं है तो हमला कर दो, कब्जा कर लो और वहां पर अपना वर्चस्व बना लो. आज जब ऐसी अवस्था है, we need a huge rebound of nationalism. राष्ट्रवाद के बगैर, like I said, we cannot survive in this kind of a what is called a Hobbesian world. थॉमस हॉब्स आप लोग जानते हैं, पॉलिटिकल फिलोसफर हैं ब्रिटेन से. उनका एक बड़ा एक फेमस कॉन्सेप्ट है स्टेट ऑफ नेचर, वेयर लाइफ इज शॉर्ट, नास्टी एंड ब्रूटिश. आज हम उस अवस्था में विश्व अगर आप पटल पर देखें. सो व्हेन देयर इज नो वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर और व्हेन देयर आर पीपल ट्राइंग टू री इम्पोज नियो इंपीरियलिज्म, ग्रेट पावर्स आप दोनों के देख लीजिए. आज जो महाशक्ति माने जाते हैं, भारत अभी तक महाशक्ति नहीं बना है, लेकिन उसका बनना आवश्यक है. लेकिन और हम वो 2047 तक वो सपना हम साकार करके रहेंगे, ये मेरा विश्वास है. लेकिन फिलहाल हम नहीं है महाशक्ति. फिलहाल सर्वसम्मति यही है कि चीन और अमेरिका ही महाशक्तियां हैं दो विश्व में, राइट? सो बोथ ऑफ देम, यू लुक एट देयर कॉन्डक्ट, दे आर आउट टू इम्पोज देयर विल यूजिंग एनी मीन्स, including extreme force, interventionism, militarism, aggression, and so on. So what is the saving grace? It is not going to be the United Nations. वो तो दरकिनार हो चुका है, आप जानते हैं. The institutions are all broken. It is not going to be any moral values or talk about sovereignty of nation states or equality of all in the world order. There is no equality, and in fact there are no ethics and morals. It's a very dangerous world we are living in. So the only recourse for a country like ours, which is rising, is to unify ourselves internally and to be proud in terms of being nationalists. Without that, we are going to be divided, we are going to be penetrated, and we are going to be enslaved again. I'm not exaggerating. हमें कभी कभार लगता है कि भारत इतनी बड़ी शक्ति बन रही है तो हमें कोई चिंता नहीं है, हमारे ऊपर कोई धावा नहीं बोल सकता है. हम छोटे मोटे ईरान जैसे देश नहीं है, राइट? आपको लगता है ऐसा? हमारे पास परमाणु हथियार हैं. You go back to the history, even some of our strongest empires crumbled because of internal disunity, disharmony, and lack of a collective spirit. So all I'm saying is, nationalism is the only talisman. And आप वो लेकर चलिए तो हम बेड़ा पार करेंगे, हम महाशक्ति बनेंगे, and we'll be right on top. और अगर उसका अभाव हो तो we can be attacked, we can be, taken back several centuries and lose everything that we have. So, जैसे 5 उंगलियों को एक साथ आप जब करते हैं तभी मुट्ठी बनती है ना. Nationalism is that kind of force. And some people say, अच्छा भाई nationalism खराब है, patriotism is better. अंग्रेजी में there are a lot of semantics. There are a lot of debates among intellectuals which is better. But whatever you want to call it, patriotism or nationalism, some people say it should not become jingoism. Jingoism is, the extreme kind of nationalism. Maybe I agree with that. But what I'm trying to say is a kind of constructive nationalism based on a shared sense of common values and common identity. We need that. Or else, the history of this country, if you read V.S. Naipaul, the great, Trinidadian writer of Indian origin, he said, no country in the world, it was so easy to conquer India. You go back centuries, so easy to conquer India. Because भारतीयता का एहसास तो है, संस्कृति है, सभ्यता है, लेकिन politically we are not mobilized as one nation for most of the time in our history. तो अभी मोदी युग है, this is the time where people have come out for the first time in a very, very, self-confident way saying, nationalism, I'm going to wear it on my sleeve. ये पिन देख रहे हैं आप? ये मैं मेरे टीवी शो पे भी पहनता हूँ, हर जगह पहनता हूँ, बिना भूले. And it is not because, we are trying to show off that we are great nationalists, या हम बहुत ही, or we are arrogant vis-a-vis others, other countries. It's actually to show that there is a certain pride. गर्व से कहो हम भारतीय हैं, इसमें खराबी क्या है? आप बताइए. कुछ गलत है. We are not saying we are superior to others. In fact, if you see our cosmology going back to our Vedic period, we are comfortable with many powers in the world. And अभी वो बन रहा है. ये जितनी आप देख रहे हैं ना युद्ध का काल, ये transition है. We are moving from one era to another era. That liberal order is finished. A new illiberal, era of geopolitics has started. And we are going to, it could culminate in major wars. अभी तो regional wars चल रहे, we may see world wars in the future. Who knows? The way it's building up. Every year there's a major crisis that, continues this cycle of violence. So ऐसे में अपने आप को सक्षम बनाना, not only as a, militarily or as a strong economy, but as a society. राष्ट्रीय स्वयंसेवक संघ में व्यक्ति निर्माण, समाज निर्माण, राष्ट्र निर्माण पर पूरा, they give the highest priority. And the reason is very simple. They realized it more than 100 years ago. अभी शताब्दी चल रहा है संघ का. आप देखिए, we have to unify as a society. एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत जो कैंपेन है प्रधानमंत्री जी का, what is the crux of it? काशी से लेकर तंजावुर तक, we are one people. कश्मीर से लेकर अंडमान तक, we are one people. From Dwarika to Puri, we are one people. जो शंकराचार्य, did this many, many centuries ago, the cultural unity of India, we have to, not only revive it or reclaim it, but we have to actually make it even stronger. So strong that nobody can divide us from outside. आप जानते हैं बहुत सारे divisive forces हैं हमारे देश में. अर्नब गोस्वामी रोज लड़ते हैं उनके खिलाफ. And that's why he is so popular in this country, because people say कि एक fearless व्यक्ति हैं जो दिन रात लगे हैं to keep this country united and together. So all I'm trying to say is, each one of us in our own capacities, इतने सारे नौजवान बैठे हैं यहाँ पर, आप सबको मेरी विनती है, let us spread this spirit of nationalism, keeping in mind the international context. जिनको international context की कोई पड़ी नहीं है, and जो सब they are talking about how भारत कितना विभाजित है और भारत के अंदर कितनी त्रुटियां हैं. भारत एक गौरवशाली सभ्यता भी है, and which has given a lot to the world. We want power. Why are we diffident about it? Why do we want to be number 3 or number 4 in the world? Why should we not be number 1? We want power, and not just because we want to dominate others, like I said, but because we have something to give to the world. And for that to happen, we have to preserve this nationalism in our country. That's constructive. So, I'm writing a new book, my 7th one. It's called India Number 1. India Number 1. And the subtitle is ABC of the World's Next Superpower. I hope it comes out before end of this year or early 2027. The fundamental point is we should aspire to be that leading power, which the Prime Minister has set out as the goal. Viksit Bharat and leading power. They're two sides of the same coin. One is an economic vision, the other is a vision for international relations. So for that to happen, we need nationalism. and that spirit, that everyday nationalism, routine nationalism, mundane nationalism. It can be like, Yadav ji mentioned, if you are just being punctual and if you are being committed and you have sankalpa and you are completing those, all of those add up to national power and strength. So let us be animated by the spirit of nationalism. Without that, this geopolitical era, we are going to be like small fish which will be eaten by big sharks. हमें भी बड़ा बनना है, उनके बराबर बनना है. There are projections that by 2075, a lot of young people here will still be alive at the time. I'm very confident. By 2075, we will still be the third largest economy only in the world, behind China and the US. According to these, financial consultancies and long-term future predictions. But we can actually leapfrog and become number one. So, ये जो 21वीं सदी है, there are a lot of these geopolitical headwinds. Many people don't want us to become number one or even to rise any further, and will impose a lot of constraints on us, बाहर से. And they will also look for opportunities within our country to try and divide and to break us. तो उन सब से सावधान रहना है. And दूसरा, एकत्रित होकर एक मन से एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत बनाना है. And that is how we will be able to not only survive but thrive in this era of extreme geopolitics. So खेल हमें भी खेलना है जो बड़े शक्तियों का है, but at the same time internally democracies generally are considered more vulnerable to these kind of external manipulation. कभी कभार आपको लगता है अच्छा भाई कोई एजिटेशन, कोई आंदोलन छिड़ गया है, कोई कहता है नेपाल और बांग्लादेश जैसी हालत हमारे यहाँ भी करें, जेनजी का कोई रिवोल्ट करा दो यहाँ पर, तख्ता पलट कर लेते हैं, देन इंडिया विल बी वीकेंड, इट विल ब्रेक डाउन. ये हम सबका दायित्व है टू स्टॉप दिस काइंड ऑफ कॉन्स्पिरेसीज. बड़े षड्यंत्र हैं यहाँ पर. हमें कमज़ोर और शक्तिहीन बनाने के लिए बहुत सारे लोग ताक में बैठे हुए हैं. चीन है, चीन तो चाहता ही है कि भारत कभी उसका बराबरी ना करें. अमेरिका को हमने अपना मित्र समझा था, अब भी हैं स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनर, लाभदायी हैं, लेकिन जो आपने उनका भी रुख देखा वो भी बहुत ज़्यादा हाइपर नेशनलिस्ट हो गए हैं. तो ऐसे में हमें भी अपने आप को एक तरह का ढीठ बनाना है. आई एम गोइंग टू बी एडमेंट, आई एम गोइंग टू बी स्टबर्न, एंड आई एम गोइंग टू से नो टू मेनी थिंग्स. The way we have handled this latest crisis of the war in the West Asia or the Middle East, आप देखिए, the way we navigated it carefully but preserving our core interests, it shows that this is a nationalistic India. We are not here. अच्छा कोई कहता है आपने निंदा नहीं की, अमेरिका ने ईरान पे हमला कर दिया, या दूसरी तरफ आपने निंदा नहीं की, ईरान टेररिज्म फैला रहा है पूरे क्षेत्र में. अरे निंदा करते रहेंगे तो हम राष्ट्र निर्माण कैसे करेंगे? And we have to strike a fine balance. So diplomacy is also important, but more important than everything else is that, that sense that there is a national will and a core national interest. अंतर्राष्ट्रीय संबंधों में हमेशा राष्ट्रीय हित की हम लोग बात करते हैं. What is the core national interest? मैं आप सबसे पूछना चाहता हूँ, आप सोचिए. It is for us to grow economically, to become more prosperous, and also a big player in world politics, a leading power. तो इन दो लक्ष्यों को साथ लेकर चलिए. हम सब जैसे एक मुहिम अर्नब जी ने छेड़ा है, उसके हम छोटे छोटे सिपाही बन सकते हैं. एंड वी कैन एम फॉर इंडिया बीइंग नंबर 1 इन द वर्ल्ड. लेट्स मेक दिस हैपन इन आवर ओन लाइफ टाइम्स, एंड इट इज ओनली पॉसिबल विद दैट एनर्जी एंड दैट enthusiasm एंड दैट जोश. थैंक यू. जय हिंद.
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
सैंडविच, लस्सी और छाछ और
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट. अब बताओ स्वाद आया? आया.
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चमकी चाट.
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे. केसरिया से मन जोगी.
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार. विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी.
आर प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी अलग प्रकार से ही तय किए जा रहे हैं। हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। आदरणीय सभापति जी, जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। इस युद्ध के दुष्प्रभाव लंबे समय तक रहने की प्रबल आशंका है, लेकिन मैं देशवासियों को भरोसा देता हूं, सरकार सतर्क है, तत्पर है और पूरी गंभीरता से रणनीति बना रही है, हर निर्णय ले रही है। देश की जनता का हित हमारे लिए सर्वोपरि है।
These talks go well and you reach a ceasefire agreement with Iran. Do you believe Israel would abide by that agreement?
I think Israel will be very happy with what we have. We just spoke to Israel a little while ago. I think they'll be very happy. This will be peace for Israel, long-term peace, guaranteed peace. If this happens, and I can't guarantee it, but I think it's going to. My life is a deal. That's all I do is deals my whole life. I think this is something that's going to happen. And why wouldn't it happen? So tomorrow morning sometime, their time, we were expected to blow up their largest electric generating plants that cost over $10 billion to build. It's a very good one. There was no dearth of money. And one shot, it's gone. It collapses. Why would they want that? So they called. I didn't call. They called. They want to make a deal. And we are very willing to make a deal. It's got to be a good deal. And it's got to be no more wars, no more nuclear weapons. They're not going to have nuclear weapons anymore. They're agreeing to that. Any of that stuff, there's no deal.
Mr. President.
A top person. Don't forget, we've wiped out the leadership phase 1, phase 2, and largely phase 3. But we're dealing with the man who I believe is the most respected and the leader. It's a little tough. We've wiped out everybody.
Is that the Supreme Leader?
No, not the Supreme Leader. We don't. Well, nobody heard of the second Supreme Leader, the son.
Are these direct?
Nobody. We have not heard from the son. Every once in a while, you'll see a statement made, but we haven't. We don't know if he's living. But the people that seem to be running it, and they seem that based on really fact, because things they've said have taken place.
מוקדם יותר היום שוחחתי עם ידידנו הנשיא טראמפ. הנשיא טראמפ מאמין שיש סיכוי למנף את ההישגים הכבירים של צה"ל וצבא ארצות הברית כדי
फौज एक सिविलियंस बच्चे को 9 महीने की ट्रेनिंग की आग की भट्टी में इसलिए तपाती है ताकि वो एक सिविलियन फौजी बन जाए, और फौजी इस राष्ट्र का विश्वास होता है, इस राष्ट्र का भरोसा होता है। जब वो अपने बदन पर वर्दी पहनता है, वो वर्दी कोई मामूली कपड़ा नहीं होती, वो वर्दी लाखों करोड़ों सैनिकों के खून से पावन और पुनीत होती है। 140 करोड़ हिंदुस्तानियों का विश्वास होती है, तिरंगे की आन बान और शान वो वर्दी होती है।
Brought to you by Zoho, business software trusted by 15 crore users. Powered by TVS Motor Company.
Jai Hind viewers, are witnessing the great fourth week in which the Gulf War has entered. And in this war, President Donald Trump carried out some kind of a miscalculation, which earlier they used to think they will come, they'll complete everything in 48 hours. Or other hand, Israelis were very happy because for them it is a kind of a historical opportunity to crush their enemy, that is Hezbollah. But whereas now, how the things have progressed, every day there is a new challenge which is imposed or posed by Iranian to US and its allies. President Trump has also, this time, has come to a kind of a conclusion he need to pause the war. It is one of the biggest indicator that US is losing the war out of their hands. And no victory is counted as a success till the time ground forces are not launched. In past 3 weeks, what we have seen, US fighters are coming down, they're refueling, tanker C-135 was brought down, and certainly Iranian effective missile technology and the system has really punished or degraded their targets in entire Gulf. Iranians have sent a very great message to entire world. Okay, look, it is primarily, it is their area, and anyone which is endangering the sovereignty of their country in any form will be punished. Now, let's come to the factual. If there is any ground war, what are the options? Is it feasible for Americans to do so? Or is it going to be a tough? So let's see the geographical pattern first. If you see the Iranian geographical pattern, toward the northern and the western side is totally, it is encircled with mountainous region where Iranian forces very much well in advance is totally dug in. If Americans, they come out there, they are definitely going to suffer a lot of casualties. Firstly, because of the terrain, and secondly, because they are now familiar with that terrain in which Iranians are really practicing this war or the battle procedure, battle drills. If you go toward the eastern side, where Afghanistan and Pakistan, they are entangled in their own war. And definitely, Pakistan was instigated by US to go for the Bagram base, primarily to establish some kind of a foothold in Afghanistan, which Afghanis are not permitting. So that is also, in present day, impossible for US forces to come from that end. There is one silver ray for Americans, that is the southwestern approach, and that is, I'm talking about through Iraq and Kuwait maybe, are going to be their launching pad. If they want to come for that, or from this approach, their first option will be, or their first course will be, exactly they will be looking forward to take all the oil fields of Iran in their hand. Simultaneously, Trump has also involved additional troops, that is 82nd Airborne Forces, along with the Expeditionary Force, that is Marines, which were already existing there, that is 2,500, along with one aircraft carrier, that is Tripoli. Their task will be to go and capture Kharg Island and also the ports of Iranian, so that from all sides Iranians are contained. But is it going to be that easy? Now my second question comes to you. No. The reason is, if you see the Strait of Hormuz, which is so beautiful, but at the same time, it has got tremendous defense potential because of the sea out there is very shallow. Any move in that area, any vessel is moving, has to slow down, and it becomes a kind of a target to Iranian missiles or the attack boats. And another thing is, it also provides Iranians a natural base or platform for them to fire their missiles on any movement which, if it takes place in that region. And second thing is, the inherent camouflage, I won't call it a type of a concealment, that the speedboats can come outside, attack them, and retreat to their hideouts or the foxholes in this particular strait. So you can well imagine that how much defense potential Iranians have got, along with their brilliant missile system. If there is a ground war, the Americans or whosoever is going to participate is going to suffer large amount of casualties. They should be prepared. And they should also be prepared that Iranians do have their strategic partners, that is China and Russia, so they should not forget about this particular part also. So it is kind of a wait and watch, and we only hope that this thing or this war should really slow down. The only option right now is a diplomatic angle for Trump. That's the reason he is looking for some time. He's trying to buy a time for his ground forces to be launched or for some type of a diplomatic chapter. Thank you.
All right, viewers, we have some breaking news coming in right now. And now we have a confirmation that's coming in from Croatia. That's a visual from Split in Croatia, which shows the USS Gerald. It has docked at Split for maintenance work. Donald Trump today said that this largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, has been hit by 17 different sides. It has been hit on 17 different angles. That's a massive strike from Iran, one must say. And now you have the first visual coming in only on Republic TV of the USS Gerald Ford. As you can see on your screens, this is from the Croatian waters, Croatia helping in the maintenance work. And this is from the Croatian port city of Split that you see the USS Gerald Ford's latest image, latest visual, latest video that is coming in right now. So this is the breaking news we have right now. This is a big admission coming in, none other than Trump himself, that this carrier has been hit in Iranian strikes from 17 directions. And he went on to say that it has been hit from 17 angles, had to run for our lives. And this is the situation right now as far as the US side is concerned, viewers. Let's take a listen to what Trump had exactly said.
We knew there was a problem when we noticed at 1 o'clock in the morning, every 32 seconds, another airplane, a very fast plane, was coming off the deck of an aircraft carrier. That's actually the biggest aircraft carrier in the world. And every 32 seconds, boom, boom, boom. And it was 1 o'clock in the morning, so we said, okay, I think we're in trouble. But they were ready for us, Johnny. And we were ready. He said we were ready, and then they hit us, and they came from 17 different angles. They were here, they were there. We ran for our lives. It was over.
All right, viewers, we have some more breaking news coming in right now. So the situation continues to escalate as far as the war is concerned. And in the latest, we understand is that the Iranian drones have hit the Haifa Elta Electronic Warfare Center. That's the breaking news we have right now. So Iran is unrelenting in its attacks. And Ben Gurion Air Base fuel storage has also been hit by the Iranian drones. It has disrupted the radar, missile tracking, and air operations. That's, of course, a big cause of concern for Israel. The radar has been disrupted. The missile tracking and air operations have been disrupted. Iranian army drones hitting Haifa's Elta Electronic Warfare Center. These are military facilities, and even the Ben Gurion's air base fuel storage has been hit. So all the important infrastructure, the military infrastructure, the energy infrastructure, everything is on target, continues to be on target, even if Trump talks about extending the ultimatum, talks about back-channel dialogue. But Iran is unrelenting in its strikes against Israel and U.S. assets. So this is the latest update we are getting in from the war zone. Iranian army drones hitting Haifa's electronic warfare. And it's completely crippling the missile tracking, air operations, disrupting the radar as well, which of course comes as a cause of concern. This is a drone, remember. We talk about how the Iranian drones have been a game changer for the Iranians in this war that is still underway. And viewers, meanwhile, there is not good news coming in for the American troops. At least 10 U.S. troops have been wounded in Iranian attack on Saudi air base, but there are some sources telling us that dozens of them have been, in fact, affected. They have been injured. Over 24 of them have been injured as Iran fired 6 ballistic missiles and 29 drones at the U.S. base. Now, this is the Sultan Air Base, Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. And this is a strike on at least 2 of the Air Force refueling aircraft. And this is the U.S. troops were also deployed there. They're also there. It's an Iranian attack on the Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. And dozens of American troops have been injured, some of them even seriously injured. You can see the visuals that are being released by the IRGC. But this is an update that's not, of course, at all a good sign as far as U.S. is concerned. It is under pressure already. There have been a lot of casualties earlier as well for the United States of America. Meanwhile, viewers, we are getting in some more visuals and more updates coming in. Now, the IRGC Navy has targeted troops on Kuwait's island, one of the islands that is the Bubiyan Island. It's a surprise operation, in fact, that has been launched by Iran, and that's the breaking news. Now, spokesman of the Khatam al-Anbiya Central Headquarters say, and I quote, as part of the 84th wave of Operation True Promise, under the blessed code, the IRGC Navy conducted a surprise combined missile and drone attack on several gathering points of Zionist American terrorists, they say, on Bubiyan Island. I'm just quoting what they're saying. In this attack, a large number of American terrorist mercenaries were killed using various destructive drones and ballistic missiles. The wounded were transferred to Saleh al-Sabah, Muhammad al-Ahmad, and Ali al-Salem hospitals. Now, IRGC says, and I quote, attacks against American terrorist soldiers in any part of this region will continue with their crushing strikes until their complete elimination, unquote. So there you have IRGC and its latest wave of Operation True Promise 4, targeting US troops now in the Kuwaiti island, in a surprise operation, what they call it. And now, meanwhile, back in India, viewers, we have the Raksha Mantri holding a meeting, an informal meeting, or informal group, in fact, of ministers. They have gathered today, and visuals from that meeting you can see on your screens right now, discussing the situation in West Asia. You're getting in visuals from Kartavyavan. You can see JP Nada, Nirmala Sitharaman, alongside flanking Rajnath Singh, along with other ministers there, holding this meeting on Saturday afternoon, discussing the impact, the implications of the West Asia war at the Kartavya Bhavan, and other leaders also. You can see the Civil Aviation Minister, you can see even Kiran Rijiju and Jitendra Singh, Hardeep Singh Puri, and Prahlad Joshi there, all part of this meeting. Visuals coming in from inside Kartavya Bhavan, where Defense Minister is chairing this meeting. We've seen that there has been immense focus from the central government as far as fighting through the challenges that are being posed in this scenario. As the war is only escalating, it has also widened impact, and that has been studied and analyzed, and it's being prepared for. Last evening, the Prime Minister held meeting with the chief ministers of different states. And now we have Defense Minister Rajnath Singh holding the meeting with ministers. All right, viewers, now let's go back to the Donald Trump statements. Now he is completely losing the plot, and he has this pattern of embarrassing statements about world leaders, humiliating world leaders, and the latest in the list is MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, the Saudi crown prince, who he has now openly mocked. And he also went on to say that the Gulf leaders should listen to him.
He didn't think he'd be kissing my ass. He really didn't. He thought he'd be just another American president that was a loser, where the country was going downhill. But now he has to be nice to me. You tell him he better be nice to me. He's got to be. But it was really something. He said, though, it's amazing, President, because he's a very smart, but a regular kind of a guy. He said, it's amazing, President. A year ago, in that case, it was a year and a half. It was 6 months ago. But a year ago, you were a dead country. Now you're literally the hottest country anywhere in the world. And that was before we beat the hell out of our.
Yeah. All right. So there you have Donald Trump there taking on the Saudi crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman. And we've seen that how the United States have been pushing for Saudi Arabia to, in fact, join the fight and come out even more stronger in this fight to push their response against Iran. And just 3 days back, Trump had said that MBS is fighting with the U.S., and now he is mocking the Saudi crown prince. And this is, of course, we've seen that as Iran has also hit Saudi capital Riyadh with the shock missile storm, reports have been suggesting that Mohammed bin Salman has been pushing Trump to go all in. And now a wacky reference to MBS. All right, we are shifting focus to other stories now. The government of India has announced a landmark overhaul of India's TRP, or the television ratings measurement system, and it sends a strong message to the broadcasting industry. The days of gaming television ratings are over. Forced viewership has been phased out. A pro-content and pro-industry policy is here. Here's more.
TRP, or television rating points, determine how many viewers a channel attracts in the world of broadcasting. Those numbers mean everything. Advertisers pour billions into channels based on TRP data, making it the single most powerful metric in the television industry. But for years, that system has been vulnerable to manipulation, allowing corporate houses to hold monopolies and game the system. And the government has now decided to act. The most significant change in today's reform is the exclusion of forced viewership or landing pages from viewership measurement. Landing pages are the default channels that automatically appear on screen the moment a viewer switches on their television. Broadcasters have long used this as a backdoor marketing tool, ensuring their channel registers as viewed before a viewer has made any active choice. That practice, the government says, ends now.
Congratulations should be for the entire industry, which has always said that eventually we are in the news business and all monopolistic tendencies are bad, and landing pages are essentially a way of paying money and getting viewership. I can say quite candidly that together with other members of News Broadcasters Federation, I have been very strongly lobbying against this terrible practice of landing pages. And I cannot tell you how happy we are that this terrible thing of landing pages is gone. Now, when this goes, what happens is that you can't do capital dumping. It can't be that you have a lot of money, so you put your money to buy viewership. And most important, the rating agency, which is BARC, will now be compelled not to measure landing pages. And I hope that after this will introduce a new wave of democracy in the news broadcasting business in our country. This will allow fresh talent to do well. This will encourage journalists to focus on content. And this will most importantly restore the importance of the editors. Eventually, it is the editors who must control the destiny of news organizations. And the government's decision is fantastic. More than that, I think there will be many more rating agencies which will happen. Multiplicity is good, monopoly is bad. These changes bring in multiplicity and diversity in the news broadcasting business. And we're very happy with it, Niranjan. And I think that particularly for professionals like you, editors like you, and all editors in our broadcasting business, this could be a game changer. Because now you can compete on a truly level playing field, which I think it will turn out to be whenever the ratings are back.
The impact will be felt differently across the industry. For channels built on strong original content, for editorial-led newsrooms, this is a major win as their ratings will finally reflect genuine audience engagement. For those who have relied on technical tactics to artificially spike their numbers, this reform delivers a significant blow. The playing field is being leveled, and authentic viewership is now what counts.
Many of them have already spoken to me, all very, very happy, and more than that, I would say they're relieved because the news broadcasting business its survival has been in doubt. How do you survive when someone can just pay out viewership? Eventually, the advertiser would have gone by that fake viewership, coerced viewership, forced viewership. Now that goes. And now, therefore, our many partners in the channels, many of them are members of the News Broadcasting Federation, but even if they are not, now believe that they have a chance. So I think the owners and editors of these organizations can go to their professionals and say, let's do the news well, right? Don't worry, money will not determine the destiny of the news business in this country. Your coverage will, your journalism will. So I think for them and for all of us, it's a defining moment, and very happy that this has happened. I think the broadcasting industry will skyrocket from here.
The government's reform is being seen as a decisive move to restore trust and transparency in a system that drives the commercial engine of Indian television. A move that helps broadcasters as we enter a new digital phase of disseminating news.
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
आलू चाट या फ्रूट चाट,
स्वाद बढ़ाए चमकी चाट।
क्या बात है? स्वादिष्ट पकोड़े और फरसान, अरे चंकी चाट है इसकी जान।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चंकी चाट।
वाह मामा, क्या स्वाद है। अरे मेरे राजा।
हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी अलग प्रकार से ही तय किए जा रहे हैं। हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। आदरणीय सभापति जी, जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। इस युद्ध के दुष्प्रभाव लंबे समय तक रहने की प्रबल आशंका है, लेकिन मैं देशवासियों को भरोसा देता हूं, सरकार सतर्क है, तत्पर है और पूरी गंभीरता से रणनीति बना रही है, हर निर्णय ले रही है। देश की जनता का हित
देश ने और पिछले 9 वर्ष के अंदर उत्तर प्रदेश ने ये डबल इंजन की सरकार आने के उपरांत जो स्पीड पकड़ी है, आज वह बॉटलनेक से ब्रेक थ्रू के रूप में अपनी एक नई पहचान को सबके सामने प्रस्तुत कर रहा है। मान्यवर, आपने इस एयरपोर्ट का आधार शिलान्यास 25 नवंबर 2021 को किया था और आज आपके कर कमलों से इस एयरपोर्ट के प्रथम फेज का उद्घाटन का कार्यक्रम भी हो रहा है। ये डबल इंजन की स्पीड यही है।
This is infrastructure designed not just for today but for the next generation. But Jewar is not just for passengers, it is also a major cargo gateway. With a dedicated multi-modal cargo hub, the airport is built to handle over 2.5 lakh metric tons of cargo every year, expandable to nearly 18 lakh metric tons. From logistics to exports, from supply chains to speed, this airport is expected to power economic growth across North India.
साल 2014 से पहले देश में सिर्फ 74 एयरपोर्ट थे, आज 160 से अधिक एयरपोर्ट देश में है। अब महानगरों के अलावा देश के छोटे छोटे शहरों में भी हवाई कनेक्टिविटी पहुंच रही है।
What makes Jewar truly future ready is connectivity. For the National Capital Region, this means faster access, better mobility, and a major step towards decongesting the skies and terminals of Indira Gandhi International Airport. Together, these two airports will now function as a combined aviation ecosystem for Delhi NCR.
मान्यवर, आपने पिछले 11-12 वर्षों में नए भारत को प्रत्येक क्षेत्र में जो विकसित भारत की दिशा में अग्रसर करने के लिए कदम बढ़ाए हैं, आज वह हमें हर एक सेक्टर में देखने को मिल रहे हैं। ये नोएडा इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट इसी श्रृंखला का हिस्सा है। आज आपके कर कमलों से इस नव निर्माण की इस नई इकाई का लोकार्पण होने जा रहा है और यह नवसृजन उत्तर प्रदेश को ग्लोबल एविएशन के मैप पर एक नए सिरे से प्रस्तुत करने का कार्य कर रहा है।
And there is another defining feature, sustainability. Jewar Airport has been envisioned as a net zero emissions facility. Energy efficient systems, green infrastructure, and environmentally responsible design are at the core of this project. Even its architecture reflects India, inspired by traditional ghats and havelis, blending culture with cutting-edge design. 3 weeks ago, RE State reached Jewar before the inauguration, before the spotlight, to understand what this project truly means on the ground. Here is a glimpse from our exclusive report. From vast runways stretching across the horizon to terminals taking shape with precision. Even then, one thing was clear. This was not just an airport. It is a city of connectivity in the making. And today, that vision has become reality. What we saw under construction now stands inaugurated. What was once a promise is now operational. The journey from blueprint to runway is complete, and it signals a much bigger transformation. From Jewar to the world, India is ready for takeoff.
In a remarkable development in the India's aviation industry, today was the inauguration of Jewar International Airport, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself came here and inaugurated the phase 1 of the Jewar International Airport. There was this inauguration ceremony organized today where it was graced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Chief Minister of UP Yogi Adityanath, Deputy Chief Minister Governor Anandiben Patel, and also the Civil Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu. They graced the occasion and they were a part of this inauguration ceremony. All of them, they talked about what good would this airport bring, what good would Jewar International Airport serve, be it removing the congestion or easing the congestion from the Indira Gandhi International Airport, or be it being the largest airport in Asia.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Our Estate Building the Nation. My name is Nayan, and today what we're seeing is a sector that is becoming more dynamic, more data-driven, and increasingly influenced by both global and local forces. On the show today, we will track how global tensions are beginning to impact housing prices back at home, and why Tier 2 cities are witnessing a surge like never before, and how policy changes and commercial demand are reshaping the market landscape. Let's get you to the top developments driving real estate right now.
global instability is now directly impacting India's real estate market. Ongoing tensions in the Middle East and disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz are pushing up shipping and raw material costs, increasing the cost of construction across key markets. Industry experts say this could drive ultra-luxury housing prices up by at least 5% as developers face delays and rising input expenses. But that's not the only shift. There's also a noticeable movement of NRI capital. With uncertainty rising in the Gulf, especially in Dubai, many NRIs are redirecting investments back to India. Cities like Mumbai are seeing increased demand for short-term rentals and safe haven assets. Global conflict is no longer distant. It's actively reshaping pricing, demand, and investment patterns in Indian real estate. India's next real estate boom is unfolding beyond the metros. A recent report indicates that land prices in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities could rise anywhere between 25 to 100% over the next few years, driven largely by infrastructure expansion. What's changing is the timing. Land prices are now rising at the announcement stage of highways and airports, not after completion. Alongside infrastructure, another powerful driver is emerging: spiritual tourism. Cities like Ayodhya, Varanasi, Vrindavan, and Prayagraj are rapidly transforming into real estate hotspots. In parts of Vrindavan, land prices have surged from around 20,000 rupees to nearly 1 crore rupees in just 4 years. Faith and infrastructure together are creating India's newest high-growth property corridors. India's real estate sector is expanding at both ends, scale and regulation. The commercial office market is now on track to cross 1 billion square feet by 2026, driven by global capability centers and flexible workspace demand. 2025 alone saw a record 61 million square feet of absorption, signaling strong corporate expansion. Major deals continue to close with large office leasing activities in cities like Hyderabad and Bengaluru. At the same time, the luxury housing segment is evolving into a core investment asset, expanding beyond Delhi NCR and Mumbai into newer markets. But alongside growth, regulation is tightening. The Central Board of Direct Taxes has introduced stricter HRA rules requiring more transparent landlord disclosures starting April. And regulators are stepping up enforcement, with RERA recovering over 200 crore rupees for home buyers. India's real estate story is now defined by rapid expansion backed by stronger accountability.
And while the market continues to grow and evolve, one of the most important shifts is actually happening on the regulatory front, where the buyer rights are finally taking center stage. Transparency, accountability, and timely delivery are no longer optional. They are becoming the norm. To break this down, we have with us the industry expert, Mr. Ashwinder, who will share with us his perspective on how this RERA-led transformation is changing the balance of power in real estate. Here's our big story.
Let's be very clear. Indian real estate is going through one of its most important transitions. And this is not a story of developers versus buyers. This is a story of the market finally becoming more balanced. For decades, the system had its gap. Projects got delayed, information was not always transparent and dispute resolution was slow. At the same time, developers were also navigating complex approval funding constraints and regulatory fragmentation. So the truth is, both sides operated in an imperfect system. What we are seeing today is that system is becoming stronger. This is not cyclical recovery. This is not just demand improving or prices moving up. This is a structural reset, a shift from an unstructured ecosystem to a far more regulated, transparent, and accountable market. And this shift is not theoretical. It is visible, it is measurable, and most importantly, it is enforceable. Let me give you an example with one sharp data point. In Maharashtra alone, 7,000 home buyer complaints have been resolved in a single year. Even more interesting, the disposal rate has crossed 130%. Now, what does that mean? This means that the system is now clearing more cases and complaints than what are being filed. Now, pause and think about that. For the first time, home buyers are seeing time-bound resolution and not endless litigation and years of uncertainty, but actual closure. This is a fantastic confidence-building situation, and this changes behavior across the system, because when trust improves, participation improves. And what does it mean? So what has changed? Why has this happened? Because RERA has matured from being a regulatory framework to now becoming an enforcement-driven system. Importantly, this is not just about resolving disputes after problems happen. Now the real shift is happening before a project even reaches the buyer, and this is important. Today, approvals are far more stringent. Developers are being evaluated not just on land ownership, but on financial strength, execution capability, and delivery track record. Now, what does that mean? This means serious developers are getting rewarded and the weak projects are getting filtered out. That is what the home buyer wanted. And that is a very important transition, because now the system is moving from reactive correction to a proactive prevention. And at the same time, enforcement has become sharper and more visible. We are seeing cases where developers have faced heavy penalties for violations, projects marketed without RERA registration, where buyers are being refunded. The message is now very clear. No RERA registration, no sale, no compliance, no tolerance. But equally credible developers are benefiting from this environment, because when rules are clear and enforcement is consistent, the market begins to reward discipline, governance, and delivery. Now, let's step back for a moment. Real estate is not just another sector. It is a life decision for most Indian families. We need to understand that. It is where savings go, it is where aspirations live, and it is where security is built. And increasingly, it is also about renters who are now expecting better standards, better contracts, and more accountability. So when the ecosystem becomes stronger, everyone benefits. Home buyers get protection, renters get better living standards, developers get more credible market, financiers get more confidence, and capital flows more efficiently. And this is important because India is now moving towards a real estate market that is not driven by speculation, but by structure, not by opacity, but by transparency, not by promises, but by accountability. Now, what are we seeing today is not just tighter regulation. It is the rebalancing of the entire ecosystem where the buyer is protected and the developer is respected and the system finally is being trusted. And in the long run, that is exactly what will make Indian real estate stronger, cleaner, and more institutional, and far more investable and trustworthy. Because ultimately, a market that creates trust for the buyer and fairness for the developer is the market that sustains growth. And that is what was wanted when RERA came into picture. So the real story is unfolding in Indian real estate today.
Now, beyond the big picture, the real action is unfolding across markets in pricing trends, investment flows, and evolving buyer preferences. From emerging cities gaining momentum to global capital backing India's growth story, a lot is shaping how and where people are investing today. To unpack what this really means for investors and buyers, here's our business expert with a deep dive into the top 3 market stories.
Thank you, Nain. Now, India's real estate story is not just about growth, but where it truly originates from. Right from emerging cities in India to global capital inflows and changes in buyer behaviors, here are the 3 big shifts you need to look out for. Cities like Lucknow, Jaipur, Bhubaneswar, Indore and Coimbatore are already seeing strong developer interest. What's driving this surge is improved connectivity, significantly lower land costs, and a clear first-mover advantage. The next phase of India's real estate cycle is now taking shape in these emerging urban corridors. Viewers, India's real estate story is no more just metro-led, especially after the fact that the government allocated rupees 5,000 crores in its FY 2026 budget. It has truly placed the Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities in India as investment hotspots. Now, beyond that fact, surprisingly, a study suggests that the land prices in such locations can exceed in the bandwidth of 25 to 100%. Office assets continue to dominate, accounting for more than half of total investments. This growth is being driven by strong corporate interest, the expansion of global capability centers, and India's economic stability. And the momentum is expected to continue well into 2026, with global capital increasingly viewing India as a long-term bet. Global investors are betting big on India. Now, this is truly supported by the fact that last year, a record $8.5 billion in terms of institutional inflows flowed into the South Asian country. Beyond that fact, this has truly established India as one of the largest and the fastest moving real estate markets globally. Locations like Goa, Alibag, Lonavala and Rishikesh are seeing strong traction. Improved connectivity through airports and expressways is making these destinations more accessible and more attractive for investments. This reflects a broader shift from affordability-driven buying to aspiration-led and lifestyle-focused ownership. There's clearly a shift in what India is buying. Now, houses priced over 1 crore are accounting for nearly 78% of total residential sales in the South Asian country. Beyond that, there's a lot of demand when it comes to second homes, buying them across lifestyle destinations in India.
But if you step back from the headlines, one question really matters. What actually drives real estate value over time? Is it location? Is it timing? Or is it something bigger? In Finance Ka Funda, we decode the fundamentals behind property wealth creation and why infrastructure continues to be one of the biggest game changers in this space.
If there's one factor consistently driving real estate wealth in India, it is infrastructure. From highways to railways, connectivity is no longer just about mobility, it's about value creation. The Ministry of Railways recently commissioned nearly 1,900 kilometers of key projects, including major lines such as Udhampur-Srinagar-Baramulla rail link and the Bairabi-Sairang rail line. Track expansion has also accelerated to about 8.6 kilometers per day, more than double the pace seen a decade ago. So what does this mean for real estate? The moment a railway line, a highway or an airport is announced, land prices in surrounding areas begin to rise. This is because connectivity brings faster access to cities, increased economic activity and higher rental and resale potential. We've already seen this play out in multiple corridors across India where early investors benefit the most. This is why Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities are also gaining traction. They are the biggest beneficiaries of this new infrastructure. For investors, this strategy is simple. Follow infrastructure, not just location. But in today's market, the biggest returns are not in already developed cities, but in areas about to be developed. In Indian real estate, infrastructure is not just about development, it is the foundation of wealth creation.
And it's not just roads, railways, or physical development that's reshaping the real estate anymore. It's India's digital push that is quietly transforming the sector. And from how transactions happen to how businesses operate and how spaces are designed. In What's New, we look at how digital and telecom infrastructure is redefining the future of real estate.
India's digital and telecom infra is reshaping real estate. India's next big real estate driver isn't just physical, it's digital. The country's digital public infrastructure is expanding at an unprecedented scale. Under the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, deposits have crossed 2.94 lakh crore, reflecting deeper financial inclusion. Meanwhile, UPI processed nearly 21.7 billion transactions in a single month. This rapid digitization is transforming how people earn, spend, and invest, including in real estate. But the bigger shift is happening in telecom. The Department of Telecommunications has now allowed enterprises to set up their own private captive telecom networks without requiring a full telecom license. So why does this matter for real estate? Because digital infrastructure is now a key factor in commercial leasing decisions. Smart buildings and offices, data centers and tech parks. Cities and business districts with stronger digital ecosystems are becoming more attractive to global companies. From payments to connectivity, digital infrastructure is now redefining how and where India builds its future real estate.
that, it's a wrap on this episode. What is clear is that India's real estate sector is entering a new phase. One that's being driven by stronger policy frameworks, expanding infrastructure, and evolving buyer aspirations. Now, whether you're a home buyer, an investor, or simply tracking the market, these shifts are creating new opportunities and new ways to think about real estate. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Nayan. Stay tuned, and we will see you in the next episode.
प्यास बुझाए ठंडक लाए सबको भाई जीरा सिम MDH का जलजीरा जीरा सिम
जीरा सिप असली रिफ्रेशिंग, असली स्वाद, असली मजा।
MDH
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी एवरीडे।
हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी अलग प्रकार से ही तय किए जा रहे हैं। हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है।
प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो, मिलाओ और खाओ।
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा हार्डवेयर मसाला। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
सैंडविच, लस्सी और छाछ और
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट। ड्राई फ्रूट और दही बड़े। चमकी चाट से स्वाद बढ़े।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चंकी चाट।
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा, क्या?
From Asia's largest news headquarters, setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
Good evening, viewers. You're watching the Saturday edition of 6 Stories at 6, and I am Rakshita Mishra with you. Let's get started with the top story that we're going to track for you in the next 25 minutes. The first one, of course, coming in from the war zone. We'll bring you the latest updates from the West Asia war. We are also going to get you an update on a latest testimony or latest example of Trump is losing it. He's losing the plot. He's humiliating the world leaders. And latest in the list is Mohammed bin Salman. Also on the show, we're going to get you the latest update coming in as far as the US strikes on nuclear facilities in Iran are concerned. Much more lined up for you. First, let's take a look at the first story we're bringing to you. And in fact, let me just tell you the lineup. We're still continuing with the lineup. So the nuke strikes are on target. Story number 4. We can go to story number 4. And that is how NCR has got a major boost. NOIDA Airport has been inaugurated today by the Prime Minister and the Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath in Jewar. That's the Jewar International Airport. And also, we're going to get you updates from the poll-bound state of West Bengal. BJP gears up for the polls. Amit Shah today released a charge sheet against TMC government, and in fact even TMC has now countered it with another charge sheet against the BJP. So it's a war of charge sheet, it seems, before the manifesto. And viewers, we conclude this bulletin with updates coming in from Nepal. Just a day after rapper turned politician Balendra Shah takes oath as Nepal's Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli is arrested. So let's start with the top story on 6 Stories at 6. Now, President Trump, Donald Trump, has done it again. He has humiliated another world leader, and this time it's the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. And in fact, he has also gone on to say that the Gulf leaders should be listening to him. Take a look at this report. In fact, Donald Trump, he was speaking in Florida, and in his address, we can see that he was completely losing it. It's not the first time he has humiliated any world leader. And we've seen that how many times that he's done that. And Saudi Arabia, as per reports, has been pushing, egging US on to attack Iran. And Trump has been making statements. 3 days back, he said that MBS is with him. He's fighting with him, fighting with the United States. And now he's also humiliating him at the same time. So we'll try and get you more updates on that. He humiliates the Crown Prince, saying, even says that he better be nice to me in sort of a threatening tone. And this could be a message that is being sent out to him. Trump knows the reasons best. But clearly we can see with Trump not being clear of an exit strategy from this war, he is losing the plot. He's losing track, losing control of his words, as he often does. Not the first time though, but he clearly is scrambling for options to now back out from this war. And he's now talking about the Gulf leaders, saying that the Gulf leaders should be listening to him.
He didn't think he'd be kissing my ass. He really didn't. He thought he'd be just another American president that was a loser, where the country was going downhill. But now he has to be nice to me. You tell him he better be nice to me.
US President Donald Trump, in his address in an investment summit in Florida, made explicitly shocking remarks. Trump made tall claims about himself while mocking other leaders. On Pakistan, the US president confessed a strategic preference for losers, noting that their presence provides a significant boost to his own self-esteem, while also expressing a distaste for people more successful than him.
You know, I've watched a lot of people, leaders, great leaders. And, you know, the one thing about sports is you break it down into, you know, a 2-hour period, something nice. You don't have to wait a lifetime to find out is somebody a winner or a loser. You got a lot of losers, mostly losers, fortunately. It's a good thing to have a lot of losers. I always like to hang around with losers, actually, because it makes me feel better. I hate guys that are very, very successful and you have to listen to their success stories. I like people that like to listen to my success.
In a shocking claim, Trump made explicit remarks about the future king of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman.
He didn't think he'd be kissing my ass. He really didn't. He thought he'd be just another American president that was a loser, where the country was going downhill. But now he has to be nice to me. You tell him he better be nice to me. He's got to be. But it was really something. He said, though, he said, you know, it's amazing, President, because he's a very smart, but a regular kind of a guy. He said, you know, it's amazing, President. A year ago, in that case, it was 1.5 years, it was 6 months ago, but a year ago, you were a dead country. Now you're literally the hottest country anywhere in the world. And that was before we beat the hell out of him.
He made a gaffe about the Strait of Hormuz and called it the Strait of Trump, while maintaining there are no accidents, with him admitting that the slip of tongue was intentional.
we're negotiating now, and it'd be great if we could do something, but they have to open it up. They have to open up the Strait of Hormuz. Excuse me I'm so sorry. Such a terrible mistake. The fake news will say, he accidentally said, no. There's no accidents with me, not too many. If there were, we'd have a major story.
In a statement, the president announced the immediate annexation of the Gulf of Mexico and rebranding it the Gulf of America, while also claiming that Cuba is next.
You wouldn't have to use it. I built this great military. I said, you'll never have to use it, but sometimes you have to use it. And Cuba's next, by the way, but pretend I didn't say that, please.
Trump also addressed the Nobel Prize snub, saying the committee has lost credibility, claiming he saved 50 million people and stopped 8 wars. As the war in West Asia reaches a 1-month mark, Trump continues to say he is a peacemaker.
Well, I'll tell you what. So I told you that I settled 8 wars. That means millions and millions of people. Some of those wars were going on. One was 34 years, one was 32 years, one was 29 years, one was 22 years. They were long-term wars and a lot of people being killed every year. So I've saved millions and millions of people. And I mean, I know it doesn't sound right for me to say this, but I'd love my legacy to be made as a great peacemaker, because I really believe I'm a peacemaker. It doesn't seem it right now, but I think I'm a peacemaker.
The latest statements from Trump raise concern whether these remarks are calculated power plays or intentional provocations as the global community suffers from the consequences of the war in West Asia.
Now, tensions in West Asia continue to escalate as Israel is striking multiple nuclear sites in Iran, targeting key plutonium and uranium facilities, while the United States maintains a growing military presence in the region. Officials warn that repeated attacks, particularly near the Bushehr nuclear plant, raise the risk of radiological disaster, drawing sharp condemnation from Tehran and the concerns from the nuclear watchdog IAEA as well. And with President Trump citing a pause in certain operations, but keeping pressure on Iran, analysts say that the coming days will be critical in determining whether the situation is going to intensify or will de-escalate.
In the ongoing West Asia war, US-Israel allies have once again targeted energy infrastructure. Fresh strikes on Bushehr nuclear plant are furthering concerns of a radiological disaster. The International Atomic Energy Agency has expressed deep concern, warning that any damage to nuclear facilities could lead to a major nuclear accident. Iran, on the other hand, condemns the strikes as a violation of the international law and calls them a threat to regional security. This is not a one-off incident. Before this, Israel struck Iran's Arak nuclear complex, a key plutonium production site for nuclear weapons. Further, to dismantle Iran's nuclear capabilities, Israel struck a uranium production plant in Yazd's strike and Iran's Bushehr nuclear plant. A pattern to dismantle Iran's nuclear enrichment program that comes with warnings of nuclear blackmailing.
As you know, we're gathered at a moment of bold action and historic decision to make America and our allies safer and stronger, more prosperous, more successful than ever before. And that's what's happening. Tonight, we're closer than ever to the rise of the Middle East that is finally free at last from Iranian terror, aggression, and nuclear blackmail. That's what's happened. It was nuclear blackmail for years and years, and beyond that.
With the war escalating and President Trump claiming a pause on certain military actions, even as the US builds up troop presence and pressure on Iran, it remains to be seen how the upcoming days will unfold.
All right, now, NOIDA International Airport is the second international airport in Delhi NCR now. It has been inaugurated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi alongside UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath in Jewar, Uttar Pradesh today. The first phase of the airport, developed at an estimated cost of 11,200 crore rupees. Here's more on that.
NOIDA International Airport, the second international airport in the Delhi NCR region. It has been inaugurated today. The airport has annual passenger handling capacity of 12 million. It is India's largest greenfield airport. The first airport in the country constructed with net zero emissions. The airport features extensive connectivity to neighbouring Uttar Pradesh cities, including Noida, Greater Noida, Agra, Mathura and Ghaziabad. Addressing the inaugural event, Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke on boosting connectivity through the project.
यहाँ किसान जो उगाते हैं, यहाँ उद्योग जो कुछ बनाते हैं, वो जमीन से, हवाई मार्ग से दुनिया के कोने कोने तक तेजी से जा पाएगा। ऐसी मल्टी मॉडल कनेक्टिविटी के कारण यूपी दुनिया भर के निवेशकों के लिए बहुत बड़ा आकर्षण बन रहा है। साल 2014 से पहले देश में सिर्फ 74 एयरपोर्ट थे, आज 160 से अधिक एयरपोर्ट देश में है।
Modi also said that the Noida International Airport will also provide opportunities to the youngsters.
आज यहां जेवर में भी MRO सुविधा का शिलान्यास हुआ है। ये सुविधा जब तैयार हो जाएगी तो ये देश विदेश के विमानों को सेवा देगी। इससे देश को कमाई भी होगी, हमारा पैसा भी देश में ही रहेगा और युवाओं को अनेक रोजगार भी मिलेंगे।
In the India's aviation industry, today was the inauguration of Jewar International Airport, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself came here and inaugurated the phase 1 of the Jewar International Airport. There was this inauguration ceremony organized today where it was graced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Prime Minister said that India is tackling West Asia crisis with full strength.
एकजुटता के साथ मिलजुल करके इस संकट का सामना करना है। ये पूरे विश्व में परेशानी पैदा करने वाला संकट है। हमें अपने देश की सबसे ज्यादा चिंता करना है और यही हम भारतीयों की सबसे बड़ी ताकत है।
PM Modi also targeted the Congress government, saying that the centre and previous state governments did not allow the foundation stone to be laid. But politics aside, the airport is going to benefit the common citizens of the country and will be a massive boost for the aviation sector.
Now, the Battle of Bengal is only getting sharper and sharper. Home Minister Amit Shah today took on the ruling Trinamool Congress while tabling a political charge sheet. Not a manifesto, but first a charge sheet. Shah highlighted the TMC government's failures in the last 15 years, right from governance to economic discrepancies. Home Minister, in fact, called this election a test between fear and trust. Listen in.
The battle for Bengal is getting sharper.
BJP party, vanished party.
As the state readies to go for polls, the BJP has begun its campaign in the state.
26 में प्रचंड बहुमत के साथ भारतीय जनता पार्टी बंगाल में सरकार बनाने जा रही है, ये मैं बहुत स्पष्ट रूप से देख रहा हूं।
While on his visit to the poll-bound state, Union Home Minister Amit Shah today released a political charge sheet against the ruling TMC and traced its failures in the last 15 years of rule in Bengal.
ये जो चार्जशीट है टीएमसी के 15 साल के काले चिट्ठों का संकलन है। सोनार बांग्ला का स्वप्न दिखाकर सिंडिकेट राज स्थापित कर बंगाल की जनता का शोषण करने वाले शासन की कहानी है।
Calling the upcoming elections a choice between fear and trust, Amit Shah highlighted everything from infiltration, corruption and scams to law and order charges against the Mamata government.
बंगाल टीएमसी के पोंचो बिपोर जॉय से ग्रसित यहां घुसपैठियों को प्रोटेक्शन दिया जाता है। तुष्टीकरण को अपना मिशन बना चुकी है सरकार। भ्रष्टाचारी प्रस्तापित रूप से राजनीतिक सिस्टम में पहुंच चुके हैं। कट मनी का कलेक्शन आम बात हो चुका है और सिंडिकेट पर नो एक्शन ये सरकार का स्वभाव बन चुका है।
Accompanied by state BJP leaders Suvendu Adhikari and Samik Bhattacharya, Shah said that BJP is here to course correct TMC's mistakes while it was ruling the state of Bengal.
एक प्रकार से आने वाला चुनाव बंगाल की जनता को तय करना है कि भय को चुनना है या भरोसे को चुनना। भय के आतंक से मुक्ति पाकर भरोसे के साथ देश जिस तेजी से आगे बढ़ रहा है इसके साथ बंगाल को जुड़ना चाहिए। ये तय करने का चुनाव है।
West Bengal goes to vote in two phases. First on the 23rd and second on the 29th of April. And the heat for the seat is gaining pace.
Meanwhile, Nepal's political landscape has seen a dramatic turn. Now, former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has been arrested along with his Home Minister, the former one, Ramesh Lekhak. Both are being now probed over the deadly protest last year that shook the nation, the Gen Z protest as they were called, and it brought down his government. This comes just a day after Balendra Shah takes over, he takes oath as the new Prime Minister of Nepal.
म बालेन्द्र शाह नेपालको सार्वभौम सत्ता र राजकीय सत्ता शपथ लिन्छु कि प्रधानमन्त्री पदको जिम्मेवारी प्रचलित कानुनको पालना गरी कुनै किसिमबाट पनि प्रकट वा संकेत गर्ने छैन।
Less than 24 hours after taking charge and vowing justice for protest victims, Prime Minister Balendra Shah's government has acted fast. Nepal police moved in early Saturday morning, arresting former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli from his residence near Kathmandu. Former Home Minister Ramesh Lekhak was also taken into custody in connection with a violent crackdown on last year's protests. The arrest stemmed from the September 2025 unrest, a Gen Z-led uprising against corruption and economic distress. In just 2 days of violence, at least 70 people were killed and over 2,000 were injured. Government buildings were torched, top leaders forced to flee, and Oli's government collapsed overnight. A high-level probe later found serious lapses, not a direct order to fire, but a failure to stop the use of lethal force. Acting on that report, the new government has wasted no time. Home Minister Sudan Gurung made it clear that no one is above the law and this is just the beginning of the justice. A promise made and action delivered within a day. Nepal's new regime is sending a strong message that justice over last year's bloodshed has now begun.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मम्मा क्या स्वाद है। अरे मेरे राजा
Amity has been ranked among the top universities globally for producing the most employable graduates by the Times Higher Education UK. Yet another testimony to Amity's excellent placement record.
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
आलू चाट या फ्रूट चाट,
स्वाद बढ़ाए चमकी चाट।
क्या बात है, स्वादिष्ट पकोड़े और फरसान, अरे चमकी चाट है इसकी जान।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चंकी चाट।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी, एवरीडे।
प्यास बुझाए ठंडक लाए सबको भाए जीरा से, MDH का जलजीरा जीरा से।
जीरा सिर्फ असली रिफ्रेशिंग, असली स्वाद, असली मजा।
MDH।
हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी अलग प्रकार से ही तय किए जा रहे हैं। हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। आदरणीय सभापति जी, जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। इस युद्ध के दुष्प्रभाव लंबे समय तक रहने की प्रबल आशंका है, लेकिन मैं देशवासियों को भरोसा देता हूं, सरकार सतर्क है, तत्पर है और पूरी गंभीरता से रणनीति बना रही है, हर निर्णय ले रही है। देश की जनता का हित हमारे लिए सर्वोपरि है।
These talks go well and you reach a ceasefire agreement with Iran. Do you believe Israel would abide by that agreement?
I think Israel will be very happy with what we have. We just spoke to Israel a little while ago. I think they'll be very happy. This will be peace for Israel, long-term peace, guaranteed peace. If this happens, and I can't guarantee it, but I think it's going to. My life is a deal. That's all I do is deals my whole life. I think this is something that's going to happen. And why wouldn't it happen? So tomorrow morning sometime, their time, we were expected to blow up their largest electric generating plants that cost over $10 billion to build. It's a very good one. There was no dearth of money. And one shot, it's gone. It collapses. Why would they want that? So they called. I didn't call. They called. They want to make a deal. And we are very willing to make a deal. It's got to be a good deal. And it's got to be no more wars, no more nuclear weapons. They're not going to have nuclear weapons anymore. They're agreeing.
प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो, मिलाओ और खाओ।
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है, सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ। हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी। चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
सैंडविच लस्सी और छाछ।
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट, ड्राई फ्रूट और दही बड़े,
चमकी चाट से स्वाद बढ़े।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चंकी चाट।
रानी, इस घर में कुछ है जो टूटता नहीं।
ये पिलर कभी नहीं टूटेगा। रुंगटा स्टील TMT से बना।
रुंगटा नहीं तो घर स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं। रुंगटा स्टील TMT बार एकदम सॉलिड।
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है। अरे मेरे राजा,
हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। आदरणीय सभापति जी, ये संकट अलग प्रकार का है और इसके समाधान भी अलग प्रकार से ही तय किए जा रहे हैं। हमें धीरज के साथ, संयम के साथ, शांत मन से हर चुनौती का मुकाबला करना है। आदरणीय सभापति जी, जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि इस युद्ध को लेकर पल पल में हालात बदल रहे हैं। इसलिए मैं देशवासियों से भी कहूंगा कि हमें हर चुनौती के लिए तैयार रहना ही होगा। इस युद्ध के दुष्प्रभाव लंबे समय तक रहने की प्रबल आशंका है, लेकिन मैं देशवासियों को भरोसा देता हूं, सरकार सतर्क है, तत्पर है और पूरी गंभीरता से रणनीति बना रही है, हर निर्णय ले रही है। देश की जनता का हित हमारे लिए सर्वोपरि है।
These talks go well and you reach a ceasefire agreement with Iran. Do you believe Israel would abide by that agreement?
I think Israel will be very happy with what we have. We just spoke to Israel a little while ago. I think they'll be very happy. This will be peace for Israel, long-term peace, guaranteed peace. If this happens, and I can't guarantee it, but I think it's going to. My life is a deal. That's all I do is deals my whole life. I think this is something that's going to happen. And why wouldn't it happen? So tomorrow morning sometime, their time, we were expected to blow up their largest electric generating plants that cost over $10 billion to build. It's a very good one. There was no dearth of money. And one shot, it's gone. It collapses. Why would they want that? So they called. I didn't call. They called. They want to make a deal. And we are very willing to make a deal. It's got to be a good deal. And it's got to be no more wars, no more nuclear weapons. They're not going to have nuclear weapons anymore. They're agreeing to that. Any of that stuff, there's no deal.
Mr. President. With Iran.
A top person. Don't forget, we've wiped out the leadership phase 1, phase 2, and largely phase 3. But we're dealing with the man who I believe is the most respected and the leader.
जय हिंद। जय हिंद। ये भारत माँ के बेटे और बेटियों की तो आवाज़ है नहीं, क्योंकि भारत माँ ने बेटे और बेटियां पैदा ही नहीं किए। भारत माँ ने तो शिंगने और शेर पैदा किए, और शिंगने और शेर जब दहाड़ते हैं तो 100-100 किलोमीटर दूर खड़ा हुआ दुश्मन भी थर्राता है। तो कम से कम इतनी तेज आपकी बुलंद आवाज़ होनी चाहिए कि इस रिपब्लिक टीवी के इस प्रांगण में कम से कम पता चले कि इस हॉल में कुछ हो रहा है। तो जय हिंद, जय हिंद। थैंक यू सो मच। आपका जोश यूं ही निरंतर बना रहे। और आज जो रिपब्लिक टीवी ने राष्ट्रीयता के ऊपर जो एक कॉन्क्लेव रखा है, और ये बहुत ही सराहनीय कार्य है क्योंकि हम सबकी पहचान इस राष्ट्र से है। इस राष्ट्र ने हमें जन्म दिया, खाना दिया, शिक्षा दिया, संस्कार दिया, और हमें क्या चाहिए? हमें इस राष्ट्र को देने का वक्त आ गया है और हम सब एक भारत की वो ताकत हैं जिस ताकत से ये राष्ट्र ऊंची बुलंदियों तक पहुंच सकता है। हम भारत को कैसे देखते हैं? आप भारत को कैसे देखते हैं? कैसे देखते हैं? अरे वो 21-23 साल का लड़का हंसते हंसते फांसी के फंदे की तरफ जाता है और फिर भी कहता है मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला। वो 24 साल का लड़का जो 15 साल की अवस्था में अदालत में खड़े होकर के कहता है आजाद हूं, आजाद ही रहूंगा, और इतनी मोहब्बत उस राष्ट्र से करता है। आप भारत को उस नज़र से देखिए जहां इस भारत की बेटी अपने कमर पर दत्तक पुत्र को बांध करके युद्ध के मैदान में कूद जाती है। आखिरी क्षणों तक वो डरती नहीं है, घबराती नहीं है, बल्कि अंग्रेजों का सामना करती है। ये भारत वो भारत है, ये वो भारत है जहां 16 साल का लड़का दुनिया के सबसे बड़े धनुर्धरों द्वारा रचित चक्रव्यूह को तोड़ता है। ये वो अभिमन्यु का, वो अर्जुन का, वो कृष्ण का, वो राम का भारत है, वो कबीर का भारत है, वो मीरा का भारत है, वो रैदास का भारत है, और हम उसी भारत की संतान हैं। हम कितने बड़े सौभाग्यशाली हैं कि 84 लाख योनियों के बाद अगर एक मनुष्य का शरीर मिला तो वो भारत माँ के गर्भ से मिला। ये धरती जप की, तप की, ज्ञान की, विज्ञान की, पुरुषार्थ की, परमार्थ की, वीरों की, वीरांगनाओं की धरती है। शायद हमने 100 पिछले जन्मों में कोई पुण्य किया होगा, तब हमें ये भारत माँ का गर्व मिला होगा। पूरी दुनिया में 200 से ज़्यादा मुल्क हैं, हर मुल्क अपने देश को भूमि का एक टुकड़ा समझते हैं, लेकिन हम इस भूमि के टुकड़े को माँ समझते हैं। यही हमारी पहचान है। माँ एक मातृत्व की, एक त्याग की, एक साहस की प्रतिमूर्ति होती है जो अपने बच्चे में साहस भरती है और इस राष्ट्र नहीं दुनिया के लिए एक नई मिसाल कायम कर देती है। इसी भारत माँ की धरती पर मुझे पैदा होने पर गर्व है। मैं यहाँ से लगभग 50 किलोमीटर दूर एक छोटा सा गांव औरंगाबाद अहीर जिला बुलंदशहर में है, एक किसान और जवान के घर में पैदा हुआ। पिता से बचपन से अपनी युद्धों की दास्तानों को सुनकर के बड़ा हुआ, किताबों में ऐसे योद्धा सैनिकों की वीरता को पढ़कर के बड़ा हुआ, खेत खलियानों में काम करता बड़ा हुआ, जिन्होंने 65 और 71 में 8 पैटर्न टैंकों को अकेला सैनिक उड़ा देता है और वो भी मां भारती की गोद में सो जाता है। मैंने उस योद्धा की कहानी को पढ़ा जिसने 21 साल की अवस्था में 1971 में टैंक से टैंक की लड़ाई लड़ी और दुश्मनों के टैंकों को नस्त नाबूद कर दिया। उनकी जब हम पढ़ते हैं, सुनते हैं और देखते हैं तो हमारे मनोभाव जागृत होते हैं। मैंने उनको पढ़ करके, सुन करके जब मन के अंदर वो हृदय में वो भाव जागृत हुआ, यार फौज में जाना है। बच्चों, एक इंसान 2 तरह की जिंदगी जीता है, सक्सेस ऑफ लाइफ और पर्पज ऑफ लाइफ। सक्सेस आपको मेहनत से मिल सकती है, लेकिन लाइफ का पर्पज नहीं मिला तो वो सक्सेस बेकार हो जाती है। तो अपने आप से पूछा फौज में क्यों जाना है? युद्ध लड़ना है। क्योंकि पिता से वो स्थितियों और परिस्थितियों के बारे में सुना कि जब 71 में वो लाहौर तक पहुंच गए तो उन्होंने नलकूप के अंदर पाकिस्तानियों ने जहर डाल दिया था, जिससे हमारे सैनिक बहुत सारे वहाँ पर शहीद हुए। तो पिता बताया करते थे कि चारों तरफ साथियों की लाशें पड़ी होती हैं, ना खाना मिलता है, ना सोना मिलता है, ना पानी मिलता है, लेकिन फौज फिर भी लक्ष्य की तरफ बढ़ती है। ऐसे कैसे होगा? बस उन परिस्थितियों को जीने की परिकल्पना अपने हृदय में जीने लगा। और ये सच है कि सपने उसी के पूर्ण होते हैं जो उन सपनों को जीता है। आंखों से जो देखता है उसके सपने बहुत कम पूर्ण होते हैं। ये हृदय, ये सोल, ये आत्मा तो उस परमात्मा का अंश है। अगर परमात्मा हमारे उन सपनों में शामिल हो जाए तो दुनिया की कोई ऐसी ताकत नहीं कि हमें सपनों को साकार होने से कोई रोक सके। कोई नहीं रोक सकता। उन खेत खलियानों में काम करता हुआ बड़ा हुआ, 11th पास किया,